Good morning.
Good morning, Ammar.
Welcome to our weekly radio show right here called Show Business on Spice FM.
And each week we're going to bring some views, news, and one or two clues from the business world.
Asian Business Connections aims to connect, support, and promote the Asian and wider communities.
And we'll be talking shop quite literally, and not just corner shops. Whether you look to start a business, have an existing business, or you just want to talk business, we can help.
We can help. We can help. And we have. And we do. So, gosh, it's Black Friday, Jack.
So have you been up all night, Ammar?
Yeah. Why? Why have I been up all night?
Lining up all the big discounts, Christmas presents and everything else.
Isn't it? Well, it was funny because the wife actually said last night, all right, we need to do this, and we need to do this, and we need to get this. And it's, I don't know. I'm not like, I mean, I got a little bit distracted when I logged onto my emails this morning with all of these, like, oh my God.
All the messages.
Get the best deal ever and do this and do that. And to be honest, I'm sat there thinking, don't really need anything. I think we need a Hoover. Which is
quite interesting because Justin's looking at Hoover as well. And I was thinking the same thing. Hold on, how many more pairs of jeans do I need? I've got about 20 pairs I've never worn before.
Have you? Yeah, I haven't got that many pairs of jeans, to be honest. But
you've got about 100 pairs of suits, probably 40 of them you've never worn before.
There is. I actually packed away as a cupboard with that full. I think I stuck about 10 suits that I've never worn into a suitcase and put it in the loft.
And the thing is, Ammar, the value that you lose, they're worth literally a very small amount of what you would have purchased them for.
Yeah.
And I knew a friend who was into, he used to make a lot of suits, and he used to have hundreds of suits. And he used to say that, look, you know, the most critical thing for me is to make sure that I don't put on any weight. Because if I do, then I'm in big trouble because I'm not going to get into any of my suits.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. I've seen some people recently, actually, that have lost a lot of weight, and their suits have they've had to go out and buy some new suits. And then conversely, seen a few people who've put on lots of weight, and including myself, my midriff. But it's funny how your shape changes over time when you've got tailored type suits. It's very interesting. So, Jalf, it is the 26th of November. What type of Hoover is Justin looking at?
Dyson.
Yeah, so we've had our last have been Dysons, and these
but
sort of
they keep on breaking though, Ammar.
Well, for us, the batteries. So we, you know, this is really interesting for our listeners, isn't it? A review on Hoovers. Anyway, it's all part of life.
I'm sure all the ladies listening, they'll be intrigued by it.
What about all the men? It's two men talking about Hoovers. Why? What's the ladies got to do with it? But,
well, we talk.
Yeah, the last two have been Dysons, and they haven't lasted. And the current one, we've lost one of the nozzles. I don't know whether the wife put it somewhere. Anyway,
there's a fragility issue with Dyson. I think they're not quite as solid as a Henry. You know, you don't get the looks with a Henry, but you get.
That's exactly what. So the wife was exactly saying that was, let's get a Henry, because you can also get down the side of the cars and things like that.
Yeah, but it's the image, isn't it? It's the image of Henry in your house. It just doesn't fit the image.
Oh no, I'm not too fussed about. I'm not too fussed. It's more.
You're proper image conscious. You are, Mal.
Not as much as you, Jalf. Anyway, it's more, where do you put a Henry? We don't have that much cupboard space, so
Stick it in the gym, inside of the gym. That's where you'll end up putting it.
Well, exactly. But no, attaching the sort of Dyson on the wall. Anyway, we've been looking at a couple of others, specifically the one from Shark and the one from Samsung. So Samsung have got a really good one at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I quite like Samsung. It's a good brand.
Yeah, it's a very excellent brand.
Technically, very, very innovative and such like. So actually, I might treat myself to a Hoover because I need one.
Mm.
And I quite like cleaning. That's part of the challenge. So it's not the image of a Henry. I just like the use and the usability. And plus, I like it to be cordless, is what I like it to be. Anyway, so busy, Jalf. We had the curry club last night.
Yeah, fortunately, I wasn't around. How was it, Ammar?
That was really good. It was really good. Really good sort of people attendance. That was great to see people that we hadn't for quite some time. Some of the supporters, the partners, people like that. And the High Sheriff Farouk Hakim dropped in his outfit, which was really good to see. And we had Imran Kalik do a bit of question and answer. We had Doc and we had Faria, and they were all three of them were great. From a sort of sharing their stories, talking about the challenges, and it was wonderful because in that room we just opened it up and everyone sort of had a conversation. So yeah. It was really, really good in that sense. Jalf?
Oh, excellent. And it would be really interesting to speak to someone like Imran Kalik, because they're probably one of the hottest leisure operators in the city at the moment, with everything that they're doing.
Yeah, and they're doing some significant stuff, is what they're doing. So Imran was saying that when he got involved in the business, he had, they were only doing sort of care homes.
Mm.
And it was since he came along and started developing that strategy, did they then move into hotels, restaurants, bars, and nightclubs? And, you've got to give them all due respect. The quality of all of their venues are first class, the level of investment, whether that was the millions of pounds that they ploughed into the Vermont to refurbish that, whether that was the millions of pounds that they had put into what was Martha's to create Lavello, then millions of pounds into Avica and the Avica apartments, and then looking at above and all of that, and then the refurbishment of the county hotel. They've done a really good job.
No, they have, and it's obviously added so much to the leisure scene in the city.
Well, they took the biggest risk, if you think about it, at the outset.
Yeah, at the moment. I think they're just the coolest.
But they're reinvigorating the Keysight, if you remember, Jalf.
Mm.
The Keysight had sort of done that, and there was nothing left on the Keysight.
Yeah.
And then they invested in Lavellos, and then made a huge statement by Avica, by creating Avica, and then everything else sort of followed suit from around that, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And You know, sometimes when people say that, oh, well, the Keysight has gone downhill and this and that, it's no other reason other than the operators is what makes the city. But obviously the city council had made some changes to the roads, which had a significant impact by cutting away that thoroughfare. I know that the florists and stuff around Keysight, they really suffered. So there was those decisions that made an immediate negative impact, which put the existing operators on the back foot, because they weren't used to it, and I think their businesses suffered. But I guess when new operators have come along, and they've just taken a completely different stance, and it created something fresh, unique and exciting, and it became a draw for the public to go and visit those venues, and ultimately had a knock-on effect on the next operator and the next operator. And I think it's reinvigorated the Keysight for sure. And I'm just, you know, when you understand the location of the Keysight Ammar, you're right next to the river. It's iconic. Anywhere around the river is always going to be a big draw. So why it went through a lull, it's quite baffling. But again, it's obviously down to the operators that were here.
Undoubtedly. And I think, well, everything does a bit of a cycle, doesn't it? As in, that's just a matter of fact. People fall in and out of love with a place and a space and such like. But the Keysight has always been iconic. I was reminiscing about the Keysight. So where the Malmaison was, that was a sort of a in and around there, Jalf, was very derelict buildings. And I remember years ago, you know, sort of few of us sort of opening up the gates to go and mess around on a building like a derelict site and getting chased from the security guards. Obviously, this is being recorded, and naturally, it wasn't me. But you know, as I used to see other children, you know, kids, just as you did, you'd go and explore and investigate.
Of course, why wouldn't you?
And the Keysight was all derelict all the way along. And now to think that all of these iconic buildings, they built the law courts there, they built, they put the Millennium Bridge there. I mean, it'd be interesting to know when those, because it was that law court investment, wasn't it? Was that not one of the first things?
That was one of the first things. That probably transformed the whole Keysight, didn't it?
Yeah, it's an interesting, I mean, the fact that a court, an investment by the judiciary, the government, triggered the redevelopment of a particular area. It's really interesting, isn't it?
Well, just on that subject, you would have heard that HMRC are moving into Pilgrim Street.
Yeah.
And there's going to be 7,000 people in the city centre, which is an interesting move as well, because if you imagine, they're moving a lot of people from Long Benton into the city centre, and 7,000 is a lot of people. I mean, you know, when you look at it from a business perspective, 7,000 lunches, 7,000 early evening meals, 7,000 people maybe possibly going in for a quick drink after work before they go home. Maybe it's even out of that 7,000 people, some people figuring out, thinking, well, hold on, let's maybe buy a flat in the city centre and this, that, and the other. So that could lead to reinvigorating the city centre in many ways, because it does need a lot of extra support, especially with everything that's happened over the last year and a half.
And look, I think it's great news, but all that's happening because it's also being showcased like, oh my gosh, look what we're doing, and not to dismiss the importance of this and the relevance and the significance of it. However, you know, ultimately, they're moving from one part of the city into another, right? These aren't 7,000 new jobs being created.
Yeah,
so that's a matter of fact. You know, to suggest that that is the case is wrong. However, you're right. The impact on the city centre hopefully will be a positive one, and that it doesn't overburden the infrastructure, people getting in and out of buses and displace people other people from coming into town because of the people that are there. I don't think that will be the case, but I think, you know, reinvigorating the city centre in such a way is a fantastic approach, and I think it's wonderful. We need to, you know, recognise and appreciate that.
Mm. So yeah, there's obviously that's been earmarked as a development in the city centre. I think there's a new hotel in the old fire station, which I think is going to be quite significant. Obviously, all the Reuben brothers are getting on with those works near 55 degrees north. So there's a lot of a mixed commercial site there also. And clothing, they're moving into a huge unit, which is the old Waterstones, which was Byron restaurant for a while. So they've taken that space, which is huge. We did think that was going to be the Ivy restaurant, but I think that the plans for Ivy must have changed, because that would have been a brilliant location for Ivy. But I have seen the signs for End. So there are some changes in the city centre, and it's nice to see some progress in the kind of in the right way, because there was so many just derelict buildings over the last kind of 18 months, places just closing down left, right, and centre. So
I think it's great. I think it is great that you know, we there's this vibrancy and investment that is going into the city centre, and the commitment from wonderful organisations that have grown exponentially. You know, End Clothing, well, even HMRC, the ministry. You know, it's great that they're moving into the city centre, and we're seeing more and more other commitment. One thing that it does do, Jalf, it provides some level of confidence, doesn't it? When you've got people in the city centre and you've got those sort of headlines around investment and more happening. You know, the Reuben brothers have always had a significant foothold on property interest within the city centre, and it's great to start to see that being realised. Although I must admit, it's quite painful driving in and out up Pilgrim Street.
It's horrendous. It's horrendous what they've done. I mean, if they don't earmark extra car parking spaces as a part of this development, I think that the council are just they haven't got it right. Because what do they want us to do? Come to work with our bikes? Yeah. Which is what they say. Oh yeah, you have to do that. I mean, you know, it's just outrageous.
I think so, but you know, generally speaking, lots of good stuff going on. So going back to the Curry Club, Jalf, it was the first Curry Club that we'd had. We purposefully limited the numbers, you know, is the thing, and sorry, I was just looking at my script for this morning that Martha kindly produces, and it's quite short. It would be quite a short program if I followed that script. I think there must be something missing. Anyway, didn't know whether people were going to come back. Going back to the Curry Club, we had Yav, Young Asian Voices, Ram that we had on, and the guys from there. We had you know, our friends from Great Annual Savings, and then the business clinic is always a significant supporter, and it was just nice when everyone had some curry. You know, the food is always authentic, real Punjabi food is what it was and what it is, and no one wanted to leave, which is always a good sign, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's you know, that was the Curry Club. What else is going on? Well, we've got a very special event being hosted on the 8th of December by Imran and Gainford Group. at one of their venues to recognise the award winners and key stakeholders. So it's just bringing people together, sorry, someone is obviously calling me, and it's just a continuation of celebrating, recognizing the significant and sustained impact of the Asian community, Jalf. And one thing that's come out of the whole Azim Rafiq thing is people feel more comfortable to be able to share their experiences, but also want to do something about it. So it's not just a case of let's complain about being racially abused or affected or impacted. It's let's try and do something about it in a positive way. So let's work together. Let's support one another. Let's join, sort of organizations and such like. That's happening on the 8th, and then Doc and Alan are taking the lead on that engagement side of things. So there's a lot more engagement going on now, and there's a party going on.
Oh, it's just obviously I'm in the restaurant, so it's not going to be as peaceful as when I'm sat in the car, I'm afraid.
Okay. Whose restaurant
is it? I'm sat in a quiet corner, but
whose restaurant is it?
Well, I think it's my restaurant, actually.
Yeah. So have a word. Sorry, that was my point. So have a word.
Yeah, it's just deliveries are coming in anymore, so they
it's like bar humbug. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what? Has he only got one delivery to do?
There's going to be constant. It's a weekend, isn't it? There's going to be people coming in and out, in and out. But anyway, it's something that we have to learn.
Sorry, I meant as in, is the delivery driver only got one delivery to do today? Should he not be moving on to the next one?
I think people like to conversate, don't they?
What? That's outrageous. No wonder you can't get like efficiencies and productivities and all of that. Anyway, it's all good. It's all good. So it is going back to Black Friday. So as you know, Jalf, we deliver a huge range of programs, right, to support startups and scale ups and all of that. And they have and are highlighted. One of their biggest challenges was preparing for Black Friday. Are you doing anything? Do you do anything for Black Friday?
No, we don't do any discounts.
Right. Yeah, so it's interesting.
We're not going to cheapen our brand by giving discounts.
Just on a side note, because obviously we go from one thing to another thing to another. So the law courts opened in 1990. Yeah.
Okay. And I think and shortly after that, probably mid-90s, end of the 90s is where it really started to pick up momentum.
Yeah. Well, it was probably on the back of that, to be honest. Is exactly what it was. So I think there is undoubtedly a catalyst, and we're probably seeing that in Pilgrim Street and everything else around it. I imagine there's going to be more towers going up. There'll be more sort of significant, prestigious buildings, and Diana's going to be joining us in a minute. Jalf. Diana's from the AllParliamentary Party group of BAME Business. she's leading some work here in the Northeast on our businesses, ethnic businesses, Black and minority businesses, getting the support that they need and deserve. So she's doing some research, and there's an event on Tuesday which Diana is going to come and talk to us about and introduce very shortly. And yeah, I think it's something that everybody needs to contribute to.
I mean, why would well, it'd be really interesting to hear what Diana has to say, and let's see what work that they are doing and where she feels the kind of opportunities are and where the areas that those particular type of businesses can go and get that support that's needed.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's particularly important that so yeah, so she's going to be joining us, and there's quite a lot of background to this, you know, from the research that Diana and the All Parliamentary Party group have done to date. Some of those recommendations that were made last year have now been adopted. You know, there's clearly and understandably and rightly a lot of focus on inclusion, because it isn't a one-size-fits-all Jalf at all. You know, this is the thing. So it's yeah, very interesting. So coming back onto the news and the shocking news that currently you know, there's a COVID variant. So let's just briefly touch on that, because that has the potential to destabilize everything that's going on. So the UK cannot take a risk. The UK cannot take, what's going on here? A risk over the new coronavirus variant circulating in Southern Africa, which may be able to evade the protection of vaccines. Jalf.
But that's just, is that not just normal though? A new variant comes, the vaccine doesn't cover that. Yeah. That's just with all things. I mean, that's not really news to me. I'm not a doctor. So the variant, when it changes, your vaccine, it's like the flu variant, isn't it? I mean, it's like the flu jab. The each year it's slightly different because the flu is slightly different. So if there's a variant, there's a new variant in the market, and let's just not welcome it into our market.
Absolutely, absolutely. But anyway, Susan Hopkins, the UK Health Security Agency's chief medical advisor, said it was the most worrying variant yet. No cases have been confirmed in the UK. From midday today, travellers from South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Lesotho, and Eswatini will have to self-isolate for 10 days, with those arriving after 4 a.m. on Sunday required to quarantine in a hotel. All flights from the 6 countries are also being suspended until the hotel quarantine system is in operation. Big challenge is the fact that people may have already come here.
I mean, my prediction is going to be in 2 weeks' time. They're going to say yes, the first case has been found, and yes, it started to spread. That's definitely what's going to be next on the list.
Sorry, say that again.
My prediction is going to be that they are going to find cases in the UK. So they've taken this action. Let's hope I'm wrong. they take the action, and the variant, they stop it from entering into the UK. But I've got a horrible feeling that it's already here, and they will announce it in a couple of weeks. And oh yeah, here you go. There's the first case is found here, here, and here, and we have to shut down Christmas.
Well, I hope not. And for me, the key consideration, and I've personally been saying this for quite some time, Jalf, is that we need to remain vigilant in this country, full stop. Right? There's a lot more other things going on and around than simply coronavirus.
Of course.
And using hand gels and using face masks and using maintaining distance and opening windows and all of that are just sensible things to do to prevent you from getting unwell. So I continue to carry a face mask in my pocket all of the time. I continue to carry hand gel in my pocket all of the time. I continue to, whenever I shake a hand, I'm not embarrassed by pulling out my hand gel, and I enjoy shaking hands. I don't want to stop shaking hands, but I'll certainly ensure that I'm trying to do everything that I can to protect me and to protect others, because it's just it's nice to be able to do that. So
it's our responsibility really to do that.
Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, the key thing is that we need to protect oneself and one another. And I don't disagree with your presumption, assumption, suggestion that it will get here. But I mean, looking at it and reading the news, one scientist has said this is the worst variant they'd ever seen. If you look at it on paper, and it's not hard to see why, it's the most heavily mutated variant so far, and is now radically different to the form that emerged in Wuhan, China. That means vaccines, which were designed using the original, may not be as effective. I mean, the other thing, Jalf, I don't know about you, but the last couple of months, I've known so many people to have been affected and impacted by the by COVID, and they've got it. So they've then had to stay at home, and then the kids have got it, and they're giving it around to the families and things like that. Anybody you know recently?
Well, but that's after they've had the vaccines and stuff, though, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously we can judge at work, and there's a lot of people that are double jabbed and they're getting the vaccine, and there's others that are not jabbed that are getting the vaccine. But I think majority of people are definitely double jabbed at the moment, and they have had COVID after the double jab. Thankfully, no one has been seriously ill amongst the people that I know. Obviously, I hear stories from relatives and stuff like that, and the cases of someone being in hospital and being on a being in ICU and this, that, and the other. I think the worry is that how come the vaccine has such a short shelf life, especially if it's a dual jab vaccine. Because if you look at the other vaccines that we've had over the years, when you're kids and stuff, they have a 20-year shelf life, or they last forever, some of them. So you would have hoped that instead of going and getting a booster every 6 months, this one would have had a bit more longevity to it. But then even if you get a booster, and as they've announced, there's this new variant, and the booster doesn't cover that, then are we not back to square one? that there's effectively a virus there, and no one is covered. The vaccine is not covering that particular strain of that virus. So we're back to square one again, aren't we? So this whole thing, I mean, look, there's some international developments, and I'm sure it's okay to talk about it because it's nothing that we're saying that's not known in the media. Some of the international developments that are happening, Austria, Australia, talks about certain things in Germany and in Italy, about mandatory vaccinations and stuff like that. But mandatory vaccinations, I guess, against a variant that's not even covered by that particular vaccination, it just doesn't make any sense. And then if you're not getting these mandatory vaccinations, as the Prime Minister or Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand has announced that, oh yeah, we're going to come after the people that haven't had the vaccination. Similarly, in Austria at the moment, those that are not vaccinated, you're allowed to work as you were when it was a lockdown here. People can go to work if it's an essential business. So if you're working in hospitality, for example, or you're working in a takeaway, you're allowed to go and work in that takeaway. But after your shift's over, you're not allowed to go and dine in that takeaway because you have to go back home. Does that make any sense? But that's the kind of system that they've created. And I think internationally, the developments, I think they're particularly worrying, because if that's the route that's going to be taken by most governments, I mean, you're creating a two-tier society, aren't you? And when was that ever accepted? I mean, we've been through the whole, throughout history, we've been through all of that, and it doesn't end nicely, and it's not a nice situation. So I think international leaders, they need to really look at the whole thing around this and how not to divide societies and divide the people based on it was whether you're black or whether you're white. Now it's whether you've had the vaccine or you haven't had the vaccine, and I don't think that's the right way to go.
Fair enough. I think it's quite challenging. I think we touched upon it last week, but a number of countries have introduced mandatory vaccination. There is currently a suggestion, I don't know if it's law or not, but care homes and health workers, and
I think it is law from April, Ammar.
Yeah, you have to being vaccinated. Now the challenge with that is actually if you turned around and sort of said that there's no guarantee that it's going to protect you.
But isn't that isn't that the case anyway?
Well, it is right now.
So then why go through all of this? And why tell the NHS staff when there wasn't a vaccine, it was okay then to look after people that were coming in with COVID and put their lives at risk? And all of a sudden you're saying to those exact same people, like, sorry people, you know, if you don't get the vaccine, then your job is gone. I mean, what are those people that genuinely feel that they don't want to do it? What are they going to go and do? Just be ousted out of society on the streets?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Martha suggested that Diana was going to be joining us.
Hello.
Oh,
Diana is
hi, I'm here. I'm popping in. I'm gate crashing.
Wonderful. You're very welcome. We can't see
Thank
you. Are we meant to see you? Are we not?
Well, I'm just popping in because I'd like to tell the listeners about our upcoming consultation with the MP Chrouch on Tuesday the 30th at 2 p.m. The event is on Eventbrite, and so if you could perhaps post a link, please, Ammar. I mean, we're basically undertaking a consultation with local ethnic minority business owners about the need for improved business support services to the ethnic minority business communities coming out of the pandemic, And at the moment, we're sort of conducting a listening exercise to hear how people have been getting on over the past year and a half during the pandemic, and to find out what the Growth Hub and the Local Enterprise Partnership can do to help ethnic minority business owners to recover and scale up as we move forward. So I'm just popping in to let you know about that and to invite all of the listeners.
Excellent.
So Jalf had some questions, I believe, on the work that you're doing. I haven't fully briefed him on the significance of everything that you've been doing, Diana, and what an incredible job you have been leading on the charge nationally, you know, as part of the All Parliamentary Party group. So just before Jalf asks you a few questions, can you share some background on the APPG, where it's come from, what the significant research you've done last year and this year, and where you're going with it, please?
Right. Okay. Well, basically, the All-Party Parliamentary Group is based in Parliament, and it's an informal group of MPs and peers from all the main political parties. Sir Peter Bottomley is a Conservative MP, known as the Father of the House of Commons. He's our chair, and we're delighted to have him on board. And we focus on the needs of ethnic minority businesses across the UK. And it started in about 2019, and before that, there wasn't a dedicated group of politicians looking at the needs of ethnic minority business owners, and we thought it was about time. At the time, the Brexit vote had happened a few years before, and we had started to notice that ethnic minorities were beginning to not start businesses and look perhaps to leave the UK in some cases. We're very concerned about that, and the fact that when the government comes up with these initiatives, they don't always look at the impact on ethnic minority communities, and particularly the impact on businesses. So, for instance, we were seeing with Brexit that very early on, it was beginning to create issues with supply chains and accessing skills, because people had started to go back, go back to Europe and that sort of thing. So anyway, the All-Party Parliamentary Group started very much to benefit ethnic minority business owners. And last year, at the beginning of the year, we were very optimistic about going forward and doing big things, planning big things for ethnic minority business communities. And then, of course, the pandemic happened, and we saw very early on that business owners were struggling to access any information or help that the government was making available for various reasons. And we decided to do a national consultation, and we found that ethnic minority business owners were disproportionately not able to access, for instance, finance. So on the 8th of June last year, we did a poll, and we found that 2/3 of business owners had not been able to access the financial measures that the government had made available during the pandemic. So that was one of the things. We also found that a lot of business owners were complaining because they didn't know which of the government's measures were appropriate for them. They didn't know where to look. We found business owners paying people to fill in forms for them because they didn't have the digital skills. They didn't know which things to apply for, all sorts of issues. And, frankly, we just don't think it's good enough. Ethnic minority businesses, they contribute around 75 billion to the UK economy each year. I think that that's a conservative estimate. And we think that in return, the very least we could expect is proper information and business support services that are tailored to meet the needs of ethnic minority business owners. And so the work that we're doing with the Northeast Growth Hub is very much looking at the specific needs of ethnic minority business owners, not expecting us to fit in and just accept whatever there is and work out whether or not it's relevant to us, but that these services ought to be properly tailored to meet our needs. At the very least, that it ought to be easy to find out what we're entitled to, but it's not always the case. And so what we want to do is to get together with the business owners in the communities, different communities, Black, Asian, whatever ethnicity, and have a conversation and get the Growth Hub to listen to what it's like to be an ethnic minority business owner on the ground, and to work out some tailored services so that going forward, they're able to provide more appropriate business support services, funding, access to procurement contracts, access to support for international trade, for instance, access to help with digital skills, dealing with a skills shortage, for instance. And that's what we're aiming to do, is to have an open conversation with ethnic minority business communities about what they need, and see what we can do to help.
Dan, that's really, really informative. But can I ask a question as an Asian business owner myself? I've always found it difficult, and that's even with being involved with ABC. I always find it difficult to know where to go. No one ever really comes forward to us to say that, yes, look, we have the ability to support you in this way and this way and in this way. It's always been a matter of us trying to really, really dig hard to find out where we can go to get that support. And I think I speak for a lot of other businesses as well. So how are you going to overcome that? I understand you're working with some agencies in locally and nationally, but how are you going to get to the roots, the root businesses, and communicate that to them and give them the contacts that they need?
So I mean, what your question is perfect, because it effectively sums up the reason why we're having the meeting next week, which is to actually invite business owners like yourself to come and sit down around the table virtually, of course, because we're doing it on Zoom, and talk to representatives from different business support organisations, the banking sector, and also the local MP, to talk about what it's like, what your experiences are like on the ground, and what you need. So, I mean, for instance, you're talking about how we can make it easier for you to find the information that you need. And I would put that back to you and say, well, what do you need? What do you want us to do? What should be made available? Through which organisations, which media channels, how do you want to do this? Do you want to do it face to face? Do you want to do it online? Tell us what you need, and we can look at shaping the services going forward so that it's better able to deliver what you need. And I think that's the right way to do it, because also what I find is that different communities have different needs, different languages, different customs, different business models, and different preferences. So the best thing to do is to attend, come along and talk up, tell us what you think, and what you need. And we will definitely endeavour to engage with all of these different agencies to design a service that is more appropriate, fit for the 21st century, frankly. Certainly resources, access to finance, access to procurement contracts is going to involve bringing in different kinds of agencies. But when it comes to just finding out what you're what you're entitled to and what is available, I mean, that's obviously got to be first port of call. But I think that the community needs to step forward and let us know very clearly what you need and how you would like to see things done. I mean, so what would you like to see?
I think that answer, there's so much. It's probably best for us to maybe, if there is a meeting that you have lined up, it would be great to give us opportunity to attend. And I think we can give you a whole list of things that businesses, like-minded businesses like us, would need help and support from, and that's even going back the last 18 months. I think there was many instances where we hit brick walls, and we ourselves had to get in touch with Chi Unwara to give us a helping hand, because some of the times we just felt that we weren't getting the support that others were getting. So and that's been documented, like I said, with Chi and other individuals, leaders of the council, and this, that, and the other. So I think that's a discussion. Maybe
what kind of barriers?
Yeah,
we've only got a couple of minutes, but I'd love you to come, because I want to find out what the barriers. And in fact, the first question we are going to be discussing is what the barriers are, and then we are going to be talking in detail about what needs to happen. Because I mean, for instance, I've had a couple of focus group meetings already, and access to information has been number one. You know, how you don't know what you don't know, and how on earth do you find out? And, you know, I hear, for instance, the Growth Hub talks about their website. Well, you know, I've got a first-class degree, and I look at their website, and, you know, it takes me quite a long time to look through it. And if I'm honest, I think there's perhaps a little bit too much information on it. And I'm not always sure whether that would be relevant to me. So, you know, that's my own personal take on it, but that's not what's important here. What's important is that you come along and you tell us what you need. Work with us, roll up your sleeves, and let's get this done.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what needs to happen. This cannot
So,
just
Ammar, are you going to be able to distribute the joining link for this event?
We have done. Jalf just needs to look for it. So it's been sent out to thousands of people now, Diana.
Okay, brilliant. Well, I mean, I want to see as many people as possible joining the meeting next week, because I mean, I don't want to be in a crowd of one trying to persuade the authorities on my own. I need you all to come along and make sure your voices are heard.
And there will be. We've got lots of people. We're continuing to push it out. We're going to send it out on all of the Spice FM channels as well. So, you know, rest assured that there will be adequate and appropriate representation.
I'm delighted. Well, look, thank you very much for inviting me along today. I've really enjoyed my very brief gate crash coming along and talking to you and the listeners. Please do invite me back, because we are going to be holding a pilot. We are going to be road testing a service. So this is not just a talking exercise. We're actually going to design a tailored support service for ethnic minority businesses. And we want you to come forward and test it, make sure it's fit for purpose, make sure it meets your needs, and make sure we can embed it so that it's properly resourced and it's going to be available for you going forward into the future.
Thank you ever so much for what you're doing, Diana. And
thank you, Ammar. Thank you as well for what you're doing.
No, that's very kind.
But
no, thank you for joining us, and hope you have a wonderful weekend, and look forward to us all meaningfully contributing to this very important conversation that really needs to move on to some demonstrable impact and change. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you. Love to meet you.
Bye. And that was Diana from the APPG, who is leading the charge and sort of working with the responsible bodies on what we could and should be doing to support more Black and minority ethnic individuals. Jalf, what's going on Did you go to the football last week?
Yeah, yes. You just. How did you find it? How's Amanda? Close up.
Yeah, they're all right. All
Yeah.
right. She's looking to take down the signs, isn't she? So,
Yeah. Well, look.
The latest hits
Yeah.
from discussions
Anyway,
and chat
until
on
next week.
issues.
See you
Nice
next week.
FM 98.8 FM.
The
Goodbye.
Transport Secretary says we